I am, the word which gives us now, though not much used, Jehovah, closer it would be Yahweh, but he is using the first person singular of the verb to be, Echye, and the echo ran home, the unpronounceable tetragram, which to this day the Hebrews hesitate to use, and they use in the manuscripts, they put the letters of Yahweh, but they actually put the vowels of Adonai, which has to be pronounced, the Lord. It's too sacred. A lesson, by the way, unto us who use both the name of God and explicitly the name of Jesus when it's not a prayer. They teach us something of the sacrality of holy names, and it's endemic in Ireland. God is used all the time in conversation, and a toned-down version of the holy name to boot. Each time the angels weep. And if we do it ourselves, that being a prayer, we are fighting for the wrong side, at least at that moment. And this has to be confessed. We can't have a little bit of sin or not recognize it for what it is, a breaking of the Ten Commandments, as is also something which is now very popular, not bothering to go physically to church on a Sunday. By the way, on this day, St. Patrick from heaven would be looking down and seeing what we have done with the work that he did. You know that in the 80s there was a strange event here in Ireland. In 1985, it seems that she appeared to 5 young men at Mount Melleray at the grotto. And things have happened there ever since. But she did have this to say, it would seem, that she was pleased with the people of Ireland. Remember now, in the mid-80s, the family rosary was still there. It was massively practicing on a Sunday. And say what you like, grace was there, and the faith. And she did warn us, it would seem, that we had 10 years. Look at the timeline, that takes us to 1995. And she did say that if we didn't listen, the devil would take over the church. And we didn't know what that meant. So we need to be aware that there are forces at work, new serpents, coming back after Patrick chased them out. What are these serpents? Well, let's see what happened, for instance, with regard to that commandment of keeping the Sabbath day. For a long time in Ireland, there was pressure, as you know, to go with the others to church. It was towards that the pressure was pushing. One had to opt out socially if one didn't. Now, there was still a bit of that there when COVID came. Now, COVID was actually the litmus test. As you know, the only way the sacraments could be got, and only virtually at that stage, was, unless one had something under the radar, to watch it online. And that was authorized by the hierarchy. But, observe, if there was a depth of faith, of personal relationship with the Lord, all would have catapulted back to Holy Mass the minute that the restrictions were over. But what has happened? Initially, quite a few would be still watching it online, sitting in an armchair with a cup of tea, but then, a little bit later on, the habit has just been whittled away. And now, observe. Moreover, Ireland has been singled out by forces, I mean big forces, to be a model modern nation, and is being told what to do by strange forces. I think you know what I mean. Do you know that whereas Ireland, until fairly recently, was noted for its healthy balance of population with plenty of young people, the wealth of Ireland, now I think, but you'll correct me on this, we are aborting about, I think, a classroom a day of beautiful Irish children. All those blue eyes, red hair, smiles and hugs are being incinerated as sacrifice to Moloch. Against the wish of a large proportion of Irish, actually, because the referendum did not reflect correctly the vote. I think you know what happened. And so, probably, there's a huge amount of underground work going on to get this last crown for the demon. Whereas Ireland had stood firm, and actually for centuries, as faithful to the one true church. Even more than Europe at one stage in the Dark Ages. For here, in this Emerald Isle, we kept learning, letters, manuscripts, faith, practice in the monastic life, brightly burning. And that actually gave us something of what we still have in this Emerald Isle, the effect of grace on nature and culture. I was in Roscrange, by the way, is perhaps going to be closed in the mid-80s. That's why I know what was going on in the mid-80s. And there was a goodness there which I picked up. A different approach, but the Irish honest-to-goodness goodness. Dom Columkill, the abbot, since 1964, kindness itself. Alas, I was immature, and I was still hankering back to the perpetual silence of La Trappe, from which I've been transferred. Again, now I go into a little tangent, because this is not important. The Irish goodness and kindness, which actually was known right across the world, because the Irish had a huge effect on mission lands, on America, even Australia and other countries where they went and emigrated. My spiritual father for years was an Irishman, our chaplain, a doctor actually, a very brilliant man, and he spoke perfect Welsh, perfect German, perfect Irish, and he would take me with him wherever he went on a Sunday. We would have Holy Mass in Welsh in different centres. But the last thing he did before dying, or at least going into care, was to come out to see me when I'd been transferred to in Italy, because he had been the one to get me to Ireland in the first place, to get me back. I think I've heard the story, but I'll just make in a few seconds what happened. Nothing was happening in Wales. I was doing theology, I'd gone back to university, and he wrote here to Ireland, saying to Killiecroft, there's a young man here who might be of use to you, are you interested? And the letter came back, I wasn't aware of it at all, came out of the blue. The abbot is in Wales, in Cardiff, this summer, go and talk to him. I went. And say what you like, Don Kevin Smith was a good man, but he was there at the wrong moment. That's not the story, but he was a good man. And this was what tipped the balance. Talking with him there in Cardiff at length, seeing his kindness and goodness, I thought, this is an icon of Jesus. There's a goodness in this man, there's a goodness in that Emerald Isle that I know. Grace is still there, the faith is still there. And when I heard also the adoration, the perfection, I thought, that is serious. Let's go and see. And he organised everything. And you know what happened? He was clever. He organised, and I came back just in time for the ordination of Brother Thomas. And there it was. at the end of his homily, talking to the newly ordained priest of God, what are you? You are nothing. You are everything. And the shiver went down my spine, and something said, stay put, and that's you down the line. What am I saying? That was the island that was still there right at the beginning of the 90s. But now the devil is trying to conquer, and he's getting us because we're fast asleep and dozing, whereas his army is in full battle array, perfectly orchestrated, hitting hard just where it hurts. And if you don't believe me, look at what's being churned out week after week from the highest places in the government, against the instinct of the Irish people quite often, as we can see now from this double refusal at these last referenda. This then was what came to me, if you like, as a sign. After he died, I got his chalice and the whole kit, and it follows me around a lot. But it's more than just a chalice. It's a sign. One priest dies and the grace carries on. Every priest must be born from a family, but himself is not married. But the grace carries on, for God calls generation after generation. If we listen. My friends, the priesthood is the link between heaven and earth. St. Patrick could have died in slavery never heard of, but there was a force at work. We call it providence. He had to learn the language, and there he also had time. He was exposed to the silence of the hills at Schlemish, and he was not usually listening to the mobile phone. He was thinking of heaven, and there he was hit hard and given force to escape against all risk, and got involved actually with the monastic movement at Lerance, still a monastic settlement to this day on an island. St. German of Auxerre took him under his wing, ordained him, actually a bishop eventually, and it was Pope Celestine I who, first of all, got Palladius sent as the apostle for Ireland, but he died after a year. And he was told that there was this man who had the Celtic tongue and was the man for the hour, and sent us St. Patrick. The only land in Europe, in Western Europe at least, where evangelization was without martyrdom. Why? St. Patrick knew the people. He spoke their language, he knew how they ticked, and he took them by the heart and hit hard there where it matters, the top, and the rest will follow. Now, my friends, we are in danger of losing all that he gave, all that he worked for, including actually that effect of grace, sanctifying and calming our people. Hitherto, you could always count on somebody coming out of the woodwork if you were stuck on the road. Now, you've got to be very careful if you talk to a stranger. Now, all the young people are into drugs and worse. My friends, we need to make up. The devil is in our midst and closer than we think.